Anyway, this is the beauty of technology online. So welcome to the club. So I would like to take the talk again a little bit a step back to where our friend Giuseppe Recchia stopped. So going back a little bit to digital therapeutics. Let me first tell you that we are a team of multidisciplinary professionals where psychologists work together with technologists, so developers, game designers, graphical artists, and so on. And what we do is applying game psychology and mechanics to projects that in the end aim at influencing motivation to changing behaviors. And this we do mostly in the eHealth area. So Giuseppe told us a lot about digital therapeutics. And what I would like to do now, presenting the solution that Massimo has anticipated, REHABILITY for tele-rehabilitation based on game, is try to show you why we believe that serious games are the perfect means to digital therapeutics. So we have understood that it's a part of digital health, and it is a way of deliver a therapeutic intervention. Actually, the characteristics of digital therapeutics are to keep a patient active, to motivate a patient, to actually work towards behavioral change, to improve people's health, and to support adherence. And all these are intrinsic characteristics of well-designed serious games. So this is the reason why we believe that serious games are a perfect excipient, if I have to use Giuseppe's language. Let's have a look at the scenario we're working on. So let's take the neurology area that Massimo has been presenting before. We have enormous costs, European-wide, but also worldwide. We have a lot of issues that the NHS systems need to solve because the ratio between number of chronic patients and specialists is getting worse and worse every year. In the meantime, we had these horrible pandemics, and we have other kinds of chronic patients that have been left behind. And at the same time, we even have medical specialists who are at risk of their own safety if they need to treat patients. So we need more than ever something that is digital and scalable to try and solve this enormous chaos, if I can call it like that. If you have a look at Eurostat statistics, you see that there is an increasing number of home caring professionals going to have therapies at home with patients, but clearly we all understand that this is not a scalable solution. This year, even in our small company here based in Milano, we have seen how COVID accelerated the acceptance and the uptake of digital solutions, and in particular in terms of tele-rehabilitation, which is what we do. The scenario is quite complex. We have a lot of stakeholders. Clearly, patients are at the center. And of course, we all know we have clinics, hospitals, and the NHS systems who have to look at certain aspects. But then again, we have the policymakers. We have heard a lot already about reimbursement, for example. Then we have producers of other medical solutions, things like home monitoring, televisits, just to give you a couple of examples, a lot of wearable solutions and so on. We have already heard the word pharma industries, and they're very interested in digital therapeutics. And then, of course, we shouldn't forget that we have also the training area. They look at education, so training the new specialists, but also at this continuous medical education. When we think of connected care, which is very often another scenario which embeds all these discussions and solutions, actually connected means quite a lot of things, because we have to connect different people, so specialists and patients, different places like a clinic and a home, different kinds of technology-based solutions, so the different kind of applications, software, wearables, hardware, and so on. And while we have the opportunity to collect quite an enormous amount of interesting data, we shouldn't forget to engage the patients, because in the end, we have to get them active and at the center of their own rehabilitation experience. So let me briefly show you how we solve this issue with the solution that goes into the vCARE project. Okay, this wasn't as smooth as I expected, but clearly there's some problem here. Anyway, just to give you a little bit the look and feel of what I'm talking about. So what we used as the product in the vCARE project is this Rehability Neuro product. It's a game-based tele-rehabilitation solution, which was built over 8 years international research, together with several teams of neurology experts, so the neurologists clearly, but also the physio, the neuropsychologists, and so on. So different specialists that rotate around the rehabilitation of a neurology patient, as well as the patients themselves. So elderly patients between 60 and 95 have been co-developing the games together with us, because when you develop a solution that has to target a patient's motivation, you cannot exclude the target users, so samples of this kind of patients, in the design phases of what you are developing as a medical device or as a digital therapeutics. We've seen that medical device is actually the first step towards something that can be adopted in a clinical routine. So this is fundamental because you want to support adherence to the therapy, because if you leave the patient on their own to do the therapies, of course, you have to be quite sure that patients can make some sense of what they're doing, can understand the purpose of what they're doing, if they're doing well or not, as well as maybe also to forget a little bit the pain and the fatigue, because clearly we're talking about very fragile patients here. We have won several awards here with this solution, and I list them because they go back actually to my slide of the stakeholders. What we have collected here are prizes from the neurology area, so the medical specialists, from patients associations, from the big players in business terms of the eHealth market, as well as from NHS systems. So practically all the stakeholders that we've been presenting the system to have decided that this is a very valid instrument. Briefly, the outcomes: we have 22 scientific papers that have something to say and a little piece of the story to tell about this medical device here. And actually what is interesting is that the motivational index is over 85%. So most of the elderly patients using it prefer it to traditional therapy and would suggest it to their peers. Efficacy is exactly comparable with traditional therapy, so we didn't lose anything in the translation between traditional therapy and the digital solution, and efficacy is clearly better than if you use any kind of games like the Wii, for example, commercial games, which were not developed with this objective clearly in mind. Actually, we have also some expected outcomes that we hope we will be able to prove in the future, which is that therapists can raise at least by 40% the number of patients that they can treat. Also that there is an improvement of adherence in the long term, because of course we haven't been able to do longitudinal studies yet because of what we've heard about reimbursement of therapies, which was not, actually it is not, at least in Italy, for example, not in place yet. And we expect, having talked to several clinics, that approximately 80% of patients can be treated remotely, while the other 20% will have to be definitely in presence in the clinic, and they will receive the best quality ever, because of course every attention will be for them. One very nice emotional aspect that we collected here is a feedback which tells you about patient experience. It's an association who reported that patients who normally are feeling as losers in their lives are reporting that here with this kind of solution they're able to win again. And I think that's a very good result for us. Very brief outlook: where are we going? We expect, as Giuseppe has told us already, a broad adoption of digital therapeutics in the next couple of years. Of course, we will need some longitudinal studies, as I said, because it will be much more easy to have patients at home using their solutions for quite some time. So we will have to check a little bit of efficacy in terms of being able to reduce, for example, the risk of new occurrences, which is very, very important. And of course, we expect to be able to provide patients with a better quality of life, which is, of course, fundamental. We still have some barriers, and the biggest ones I would wrap up from an organizational perspective, because if you deliver a digital solution, digital therapeutics to some specialists, of course, these need to be seamlessly embedded into routine. You cannot just give it to them and that's it. And this brings with it to change organizational processes, to change working processes, to update legal processes, which are not there yet, and that's fundamental. Then, of course, we will need to demonstrate cost savings in the longer term. And then, of course, as I said before, some trainings will have to be updated as well. So actually, thanks to vCARE, but also to very many other collaborations like Da Vinci, Digital Therapeutics, and other colleagues from different pharma companies and different environments, we hope we will be able to support dismantling these barriers in the next period. So these are my contact details, and thank you again for listening, and very sorry for the technical problems I had.